All right, so that was the American Secretary of State Anthony Blinken addressing a press briefing in Tokyo. Let's also now take a quick look as to what else is making news around the world. Maxar Technologies has released satellite images of aid trucks that are queued up at Egypt's Rafah border crossing with Gaza Strip. Many large vehicles gathered on the Egyptian side of the border amidst shortages of food, medicine and fuel in Gaza. The evacuations have been suspended through the crossing after an Israeli strike on an ambulance that was headed to the Rafah border crossing. Egypt has said that it is pressing for increased aid and fuel into the Gaza Strip for the Palestinians and also for security for ambulances. Other images released by Maxar Technologies show people heading south on foot from Gaza City along Salah al-Din Road. The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that Israeli military is encircling the Gaza city. In a televised statement, the Israeli Prime Minister said that there will be no ceasefire or delivery of fuel to Gaza before Hamas releases the hostages. He also warned Hezbollah against joining the fighting in the territory. Now, Israel previously had said that it has surrounded the Gaza city to go after the Hamas fighters who, remember, staged an attack on Israel exactly a month ago. Smoke rose up over the Lebanese villages in the south after intense bombardment by the Israelis amidst the Israel-Hamas war. The Israeli troops and militants of Lebanon's Hezbollah group and also their allies have been clashing for a month along the border. Since the beginning of this war on the 7th of October, the clashes have increased in their intensity as Israel started a ground incursion in Gaza against Hamas, that is an ally of Hezbollah. The group also has different types of drones and surface-to-sea missiles. Ill-equipped rescue teams in the Gaza Strip are racing against time and are struggling to evacuate survivors and victims from underneath the rubble in the Gaza Strip. 7 rescuers have been hit in the ongoing Israeli strikes just in the last 24 hours. Teams across the Gaza Strip report that they have very little fuel to Russian ambulances to the site of the debris, where the survivors are being pulled out with bare hands. Dozens of Israelis gathered along Jerusalem's western wall to hold prayers for hostages held by Hamas militants and people who are missing. The Hamas fighters, remember, had attacked the Israeli region in the south near the Gaza Strip on 7th October and 1,400 people had been killed. 230 hostages were taken. Now, this attack has triggered a massive Israeli response that has so far cost over 10,000 lives of Palestinians, in which 4,000 are said to be children, in a campaign of relentless bombardment that Israel has carried out. Shelling continues along the Russia-Ukraine border. In the latest, Ukraine's military says that its troops have repelled Russian assaults in many areas, while they're bracing for a third offensive to capture the key frontline eastern town of Avdiivka. The Ukrainian Interior Minister has said that Russia bombarded about 118 Ukrainian towns and villages in 24 hours, more than on any other day this year. He also added that 10 of Ukraine's 27 regions had come under attack, causing many deaths and injuries. Meanwhile, Ukrainian shelling has also killed about 6 people in the city of Donetsk on Tuesday. 11 people sustained serious injuries. South African Minister Naledi Pandor has reiterated that her country demands for an immediate and a comprehensive ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. The Pandor's comments came after South Africa recalled its ambassador and diplomatic mission from Israel in protest against the relentless bombardment of the Gaza Strip by the Israelis, describing it as quote-unquote genocide being committed on the Palestinian people. Foreign ministers of the Group of 7 nations, commonly known as G7, have started the first of this week's meetings in Tokyo, where they've discussed issues including Russia's war in Ukraine and the Israel-Gaza war. The G7 nations, including the likes of Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the United States, as well as European Union, are participating in the meetings. The foreign ministers will hold a virtual talk with Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba later in the day. The American Secretary of State Antony Blinken has also addressed a presser after the meeting. Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa has resigned just hours after prosecutors detained his chief of staff in a corruption probe into lithium mining and hydrogen projects. According to prosecutors, Costa is a target of a separate investigation. Costa said that he will not stand as a candidate for a fourth time as premier. It is up to the president now to decide whether to allow Costa's socialists, who have a majority in the parliament, to form a new government or to dissolve the parliament and call for an election. Ohio has voted to make a right to abortion protected by state constitution. US President Joe Biden has said that it was a vote to protect fundamental rights. This is seen as a major victory for pro-choice campaigners in the state. The amendment will change the state's constitution to include protections for abortion access. It will establish, and I quote here, an individual right to one's own reproductive medical treatment, including on abortion, contraception and miscarriage care. It explicitly prohibits the state from directly or indirectly burdening, penalizing or prohibiting abortion before viability, which is usually 23 weeks. Several areas are engulfed by a very severe smog in India's capital, New Delhi. Drone footage showed buildings and streets shrouded in smog, triggering low visibility in many areas. The government has shut down primary schools in Delhi and other adjoining areas and has initiated steps to stop the entry of heavy vehicles into the city. New Delhi ranks amongst the world's top polluted cities every year ahead of the onset of the winter season. Calm winds and low temperatures trap pollutants from sources like vehicles, industries, construction dust, and most important of all, crop residual burning in nearby fields, which turns large parts of the regions around India's national capital into a gas chamber. Two weeks after the deadly Hurricane Otus hit Acapulco, the popular tourist resort on Mexico's Pacific coast is still struggling to find its feet. In Acapulco Bay, the Navy divers are searching for missing people among the destroyed or submerged yachts. And at least about 48 people were killed and over 30 are still unaccounted for after Hurricane Otus came ashore in the early hours of the 25th of October. On Monday, a major supermarket near the beach reopened its doors, allowing customers to enter in groups of 10 under the control of the army. A massive snowstorm has hit Russia's Far East, causing traffic disruptions in some cities. The emergency ministry has said that some parts of the highway in the region are closed to passenger vehicles, and according to the Met Department, heavy snowfall is expected to continue for the next few days. The heavy rains have caused rivers to overflow in Mexico's southern state of Chiapas and Tabasco. The overflow has resulted in road blockages and has affected several communities. Although some minor landslides were reported, there were no reports of any injuries. The Tiapa and La Sierra rivers have exceeded their critical levels due to the cold weather front. PWC Australia has announced layoffs affecting 338 staff as the country is grappling with a slowing economy and the aftermath of a tax document leak scandal. The scandal involving leaked government tax plans led to the departure of the PWC Australia CEO and several senior partners. This in turn has prompted various public and private sector clients, including major companies like Google, Uber and Meta platforms, to reassess their relationships with the auditing and consulting giant. Oil prices have tumbled to their lowest levels in over 3 months due to mounting concerns about the dwindling demand from the top oil consumers, the United States and China. US crude oil stocks surged by nearly 12 million barrels, leading to a downward spiral in prices. Meanwhile, China's economic data has raised doubts about the future of oil demand. On a positive note, OPEC remains pretty optimistic about global economic growth driving fuel demand. Top executives in the world of global finance are pretty bullish on China. They say that the economic policy shift in the world's second largest economy and investment opportunities it is creating are drivers for long-term bets in the country by global asset managers. China is the world's second largest capital market after the US global finance wizards now expect the country to be part of a global investment portfolio in the long run. This is good for news for an economy which has been struggling to come out of the shadows of COVID-19 lockdowns. In the recent past, the country's economic growth momentum has improved, with production and consumption recovering steadily and employment and consumer prices remaining stable overall. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.